Hello, everybody. Um, we're here tonight, me and Jason. Jason's having a little bit of technical difficulties, and I'm not sure if they will fix. Hey, Maria. Hey, Adam. And we have a special guest tonight, Chris. And I'm going to make you bigger because you're going to be the one talking, introducing yourself, and telling everybody what you do.
Sounds good. So, my name is Chris Harmon, founding organizer to the Western Association for the Science of the Paranormal, also known as WASP. We've been, as a group, we've been around for almost 5 years. October is when we hit our 5 year anniversary. I've been studying the paranormal since 2009. So, in fact, November of 2009. So, about 13 years now that I've been studying the paranormal. In addition, I'm married to a wonderful woman of 18 years, my wife Jackie. I also have four wonderful kids ranging from 17 all the way to 6. And hobbies include retro video game collector, love listening like classic rock and roll and other great music. And then in addition, I've spent 15, 16 years in the indies of professional wrestling as a referee, ring announcer, timekeeper, and video editor.
That's exciting. That sounds exciting. The wrestling timekeeper or the announcer part, that sounds exciting.
A lot of fun, a lot of learning experiences, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
There we go. Okay.
Yay.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Awesome.
Good.
So, Chris has also been a part of some studies and research stuff that involves paranormal and did you say sleep? Is it sleep study? Is it called a sleep study?
I guess you could kind of say it's kind of a sleep study. What it's more about is I've been kind of keeping an eye on how children react with the paranormal as well, because we all, when we start growing up, we experience weird things that we can't explain. And the first thing we do is go tell our parents about it. And they're like, it's just your imagination. It's something that you don't believe. You just ignore it and move on. Because when you're a younger child under the age of 8, you're still closer to the veil. So you're still young, you're still naive, you're still learning about life, that things happen that you just cannot explain. And the reason why I started looking into this and started looking into this theory/study a little more is growing up as a kid, one of my favorite cartoons was The Real Ghostbusters. And they had an episode featuring the boogeyman coming out of one of the children's closet. And I revisited it one day and I started thinking for a minute, now, hold on a second. We as children, we're always saying we see a monster underneath our bed. There is a boogeyman come out of our closet. What if there's more to that and they're actually seeing something that is more paranormal, that they call it a monster immediately? That's the first thing they think of because you've never seen it before. That's the first thing they think is monster. So I'm starting to put this together a little bit more on what's going on with our children and what they're seeing, because I feel if we start listening to them more, we might get more answers to why the paranormal exists. And I think it comes down to a wandering spirit that's coming through that they've never seen before, that could be friendly, it could be mean, it could be positive, negative. It could also be a old relative they've never seen before that has came and tried to talk to them. So I have a feeling it's along those lines, but there's a lot more to it that we have to study on to get more of the answers.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what you do and compare that because I don't ever count out any form of research or studies to try to explain what's unexplainable.
And I'll give you an example of one of the things we try to do to kind of help with this is children love to draw pictures, whether it's with crayons, pencils. They just love to draw pictures. And I think it's the one way to explain what they're seeing. So there was a case in Tooele, Utah that we just had earlier this year. And the young boy was telling me that he was seeing something coming out of his closet. He was 5 years of age. And so I started asking some questions like, okay, can you describe what this spirit looks like? Can you tell me a little bit more about this monster that you're seeing? And then I asked him to draw a picture of the entity itself. And he pulls out this picture of this big old, almost, I want to say, Oh, I try to remember the folklore. Uh, Slender Man. It looks like Slender Man, so to speak. He doesn't know what a Slender Man is, so I didn't bring that name up. But it did bring up the question, what is he seeing? And he pulls out this picture that he drew and gave it to us. I think it really helps with the research, what they're seeing, to know, to get a better understanding, you know?
Yeah. I wouldn't also have said the Slender Man just because you don't want him to go look up the Slender Man if he's old enough.
Yeah, it's the first thing that I thought of him as like, okay, long legs, small torso, white head. It could be that, but I wouldn't call it a Slender Man. I would just say it's more of a spirit that you're seeing that is just coming this way.
What is the most severe situation that you have had or complaint that you've had to you guys about that happening? Like, what's the most severe case overall?
The most severe case, I would have to say, is one of our Taylorsville cases. This Taylorsville case that we did back in July of 2020, there was a lot of weird things going on in this home. And it actually wasn't a child that was affected by this. There was something in the the client that called us out in her closet that she couldn't explain. The energy was weird all over the place. And we noticed a real interesting trend. A lot of it was affected when her fiance was in the house. So we did two different investigations in this home to see what we can gather. The first time we did it without the fiance, he was on the road, he's a truck driver. And then the second time he happened to be there. What we discovered is the spirit is not a fan of males. And if you have tattoos as well, that's not any better. And we don't know why. That was the thing that was really bizarre and odd, and why it wasn't affecting her. And what's interesting about it too, the sleep paralysis you were bringing up earlier. She would proclaim she'd fall asleep in her bed and wake up on the couch, which one of the things she told us was she was dealing with stress. She ran a business and things were not doing well. She didn't get more in detail than that, which was perfectly fine. But during these times, she would fall asleep in bed and then walk into the living room. Or what would happen is she'd wake up in the living room, which right there to me, she's sleepwalking because of the stress, because of everything going on. One of those common things that happens with sleepwalking. And it was one of the signs that, yeah, there's a lot going on. The energy all over the place. Her fiance comes from New Orleans. His grandma was a witch, and he picked up all the Wiccan that he dealt with as a kid, but he never used it. He started using it for his child and him to protect him, not the fiance, which was rather weird to say the least. But we noticed the change in the place when he was around, that it actually affected my team. We all had something happen to us, and I'm not saying my case was the worst because everybody has a different sign of it. Mine was a possession. Whatever was attached to us tried to possess me and show up in another location that we were investigating a couple of weeks later. I had to get fully cleansed and get this spirit that was away from me. It was just one of the scariest moments in my paranormal career.
So it followed you home?
It followed me home. Didn't do anything at my home. It didn't do anything to my family. It only did something to me when we went into a different location, which was really odd. It didn't show any signs to me when I was around here at home. It only showed up when we were at that location for an investigation.
That's strange.
Yeah, and honestly, it was one of the more frightening things because afterwards, I'm completely drained. I have no energy to continue the case. I had to sit at base camp the rest of the night. Felt really discouraged and disappointed. But what was really fascinating about it as well, too, was the place that we went to did not like the fact that I brought this entity with me, and they did not want us to continue the case. They didn't want us in any of the houses. They didn't want any of us near anything. They were very upset. And a great example of what ended up happening was after we were taking down security cameras in one of the in the ranch house of this place. One of my founding members, Justin, started getting vertigo. He's never suffered from vertigo
Really?
ever. Yeah, the spirits were very unhappy, and because of that, they forced us to leave. They were not happy at all.
Yeah, so they were using whatever measures they had to get you to leave that family's house.
Oh yeah. Eventually, the client was taken care of. They were cleansed. The home was cleansed, and everything worked out well. So I'm pretty pleased about that. We were able to get rid of whatever was bugging them.
Thank you, Dawn. Yeah, that's can get scary when people don't know what's going on, and it takes a while, and you have to go through different measures to get something stabilized or cleansed or rid of it or whatever. Sometimes it can get scary. I've dealt with some stuff sort of similar to what you're talking about. It didn't. Well, I guess it did follow me, kind of, but and it came from someone else, and it was something that I believe had came from witchcraft. Brugidia or however you pronounce it. It's like Hispanic witchcraft or Latino witchcraft. But
yeah, I always tell everybody the paranormal is not for everybody. Make sure you are fully ready for what happens to you, because anything can happen. And that's not just saying it to say it. It does happen, plain and simple.
So you kind of mentioned the Ghostbusters cartoon earlier. It's just kind of stepping away from the cartoon things, but was there like any kind of movies that influenced you like that too, like like The Exorcist or anything?
Actually, Ghostbusters was my biggest influence. I grew up watching the movie, the cartoon, had the toys, had the proton pack, and I think that kind of helped me out along the way. Because at the time, I didn't think ghosts were real. I was a kid. I didn't have any personal experiences. I was a kid. It wasn't until I was 17 years old back in 2000 when I experienced my first paranormal thing. And it actually happened when I was working at an amusement park called Lagoon here in Utah in Farmington. And to give an idea of how this place is, you've got the main area, which is all the rides. You've got the swimming area, and then they've got this place called Pioneer Village. All the buildings in there come from remnants of the 1800s in Utah, from Salt Lake City, Rockport, and there happened to be an old shooting gallery that us game people would run and operate, and I had the opportunity to run it one night by myself. About 20 minutes before this game was to be shut down for the night, for anybody who's ever heard of the Bonanza game where you shoot at the items with the light gun, that's exactly what it was. All the items that you shot at, including the ones that weren't working, all went off at once. Something I'd never seen before. So it frightened me. I had a little fear in me. I'm like, what the heck's going on? And then moments after they all shut down, I start hearing footsteps down a hallway that only employees go through. So my first sense, it's my bosses. They're playing a practical joke on me. Very funny. So I start walking over there, talking to them. And as I start walking closer, there was no one there. I open the door. No one's around. There's no way for anybody to hide. No one was there. So I was freaked more than ever before. Brought it up to my managers. They're like, it's just the air compressor system. It's just doing that. It does that every once in a while. And at that moment, I'm starting to think a little bit. I'm like, okay, how did this happen? Why did it happen? Where did it come from? How do I know this is not paranormal? And it kind of started bringing a lot of questions about why the paranormal exists. And I think the other thing that really influenced me is the old MTV show Fear that they had back in the 2000s. For those who remember it, what they did, set 6 college kids to a haunted location and had them do these wacky tasks to try to get spirits to show up on TV. And that was the other thing that's like, okay, could I do this? Could I go out there and study this, be in these haunted places, and see what happens? And it took a while, but I finally got started into studying it because of all this.
I kind of feel like I vaguely remember that show.
It's
I think I
it's
do.
on YouTube. You can actually pull it up on YouTube. Quality's
Yeah.
pathetic, but it's on there. Check it out.
The quality probably wasn't like it is now back then either. I don't know what year it was, but it would have been in like the late 80s or the 90s.
Late '90s, mid or early 2000s. I remember it
Yeah.
from because I know I was like 18 or 19 watching it, and I'm sitting here like, what type of show is this? You know?
And then Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters started.
Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta love those shows.
Do you think that from doing the okay, so you used to be a wrestling announcer, so you worked with a lot of people probably that practiced some kind of martial arts or some kind of self defense, right?
hmm Um, they're out there. I have actually was in karate when I was younger as a kid.
Yeah.
Working in the wrestling business, you learn how to train, especially when you're a referee, because you got to learn to take the bumps. So you learn a lot from a lot of the talent out there. And I've had the chance and the opportunity to work with people from the WWE, All Elite Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the big names out there. Had a chance to work with them and learn a little more. It was a great experience.
Yeah.
I cannot be unhappy about it at all.
I was going to ask you if you kind of felt like um, that gives you a hypervigilance to be more sensitive in a way, or sense things, or even maybe attract things that might be of the unknown and unexplainable nature.
I think what it really did for me is kind of got me out of my comfort zone to explore more. I think is what
Yeah.
really it did, because with pro wrestling, you watch it on TV and the first thing people say, "Oh, it's fake." You don't realize how much you actually have to put in to a single match or a single show for it to be entertaining. There's a lot of pain that goes through all this. I guarantee you, a lot of the stuff you see on TV, it's not fake, it's staged, and it does hurt. So stepping out of my comfort zone to get into that kind of really helped me realize, you know what? If I could do pro wrestling, why not get into the paranormal and finally study this? Start being comfortable with it. And I think the ring announcer part really helped me speak to people more.
Yeah.
I Because we've done ghost tours where I would run the ghost tour and talk to people and have a great
Yeah.
time with it. I've been able to communicate with people via email or telephone to kind of get more answers and more questions. It really helped me step out of my comfort zone more, that I'm thankful for. I'm not the same human being I was, and I'm actually happy about that.
Awesome. It gave you more of like a command presence, maybe, or more of like a people person, peoply presence.
Oh yeah, and in addition to, I've worked 20 years of retail with over 10 years of management experience. I think that kind of helps too.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the wrestling thing, I have to ask you, who's your all time favorite wrestler?
Who's my all-time favorite wrestler?
Yeah.
So if we're gonna, I kind of do it this way, because you look at the new generation versus when we were younger, the generation. So when I was younger, I was a big fan of the Macho Man Randy Savage, Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase, Jake the Snake Roberts,
Yeah.
and one that's really funny. I mean, it falls into the paranormal. Character named Papa Shango. Very short-lived character, but I like the presence. I like the supernatural behind it. Undertaker you could throw in there as well too. When it comes to the newer wrestlers, there's the phenomenal AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre, and then right now my favorite one out of everybody is a female wrestler actually, and it's Sasha Banks from the WWE. I followed her career since she was down in the NXT area, and she's grown as an individual, and she's amazing. And for those of you not familiar with her character, you can throw in Kasha Reeves from the Mandalorian. She was in Mandalorian season 2 as the Mandalorians that took their helmets off. She was actually cast as one of them for a few episodes.
Okay.
We have a
I have
wrestling
to-
fan in the house.
Yeah, I knew Adam was watching, but
Jeremy
So,
is too. If he watches, Jeremy's a fan.
Well, the cool part is I've actually got to work with a few people from AEW, which
Yeah.
is really nice, because in October, there was a company I was working with called Devotion Championship Wrestling as a referee, And Manny Smith, who runs Devotion Championship Wrestling, he's also known as Manny Fresh. He does the whole entire lemon gimmick. And his wife, Diana, who is Rekka Tahaka, were both working in AEW under AEW Dark and Impact Wrestling.
Right.
And they got to know QT Marshall, who runs the Nightmare Factory out there and is also a part of All Elite Wrestling. He came out and did a tryout with everybody, and I had the opportunity to referee the match he was a part of at that show and had a great time. So there's a lot of big names I got to work with, including, and I know Adam's going to recognize the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. They were here in December. I got a chance to work with them, and also got to meet Executive Vice President Scott Demora of Impact Wrestling.
Right.
That's awesome.
So my all-time favorite wrestler growing up.
Oh no, we lost him. Oh no.
You're frozen. He's like my all-time favorite wrestler. And halt.
Cut. Oh.
I think you might have to go out and come back in, Jason, if you can hear me.
Oh, I hate when
Scotty
that happens.
beam me up.
Yeah, they're actually, Adam, they are an awesome tag team. Very respectful. Doc even thought, actually, I was a really good referee and was going to start recommending my name out to other territories, which was really cool. The truth is, when it comes to pro wrestling, I used to love it as a kid, but the paranormal is something I've really focused on more because this is where I really want to put my focus on it. So Sting is actually one of my favorite wrestlers too. I love his stuff and love him to death.
I know that one.
Sting was awesome. He's actually the very first wrestling show I ever got to see live was with Sting. So Carl's a big wrestling fan, but he's also the ranch manager for Fieldingar Ranch out here in Utah, which is a place that we've been studying for the last 3 years.
You're from Utah?
Mm-hmm. Born and raised and still here.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the paranormal in Utah does exist, no matter how much anybody tries to tell you it doesn't. But I'm actually good friends with a Martin Casals, who is a former WWE Tough Enough competitor back in 2011, was also part of Lucha Underground on the El Rey Network, their former champion, and he's been a part of AEW Dark and Elevation, which was really cool. I brought him out in January to see if we can pick up some stuff for him.
I was actually talking to somebody earlier that was going to Utah, and I told them I didn't know of anything exciting in Utah except there's an asylum there that's very haunted, and it's like open for paranormal investigations. And that was the only thing I said that I'd go to Utah for.
Utah does have, it has a unique feel to it. As someone who's born and raised, have lived here all my life, the one thing I love about Utah is the mountains. That's off to the east side of me. And it's beautiful, especially around wintertime with the snow on there. That's about the only thing that snow is good for in Utah is on the mountains. Not much of a skier, even though I live here in Utah, but that's one of the biggest things. If you are ever wanting to come out to Utah, Antelope Island, out in the middle of the Great Salt Lake, or what's left of it right now, is
Antelope
a great place.
Island?
Yes, a great place to check out. It's got a lot of great wildlife, including bison, coyotes, deer, and Fieldingar Ranch is a real good place to check out during the day. But if we ever go out there again, which we're planning to July 9th, you got to come check this place out at night. The place is different every single time. It feels like it changes every so often.
Yeah.
So, Adam, check out Utah whenever you get a chance. And check out Lagoon also for a great amusement park ride. It's great job for them.
And then Asylum. What's it
Asylum
called?
49.
Yes. It was like numbers with 4 in it. What is it?
In fact,
Asylum 49.
the case in Tooele that I talked about earlier is a mile away from Asylum 49.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we drove past it. I haven't checked it out myself because with our group, we're not a funded group. We have to fund ourselves, and they're not cheap. They want around $100 or more to go check, to just investigate it. So it's not cheap at all, but I've heard nothing but stories about that place, and there's a lot of activity that goes on in there.
Yeah, there's a friend of ours, the one that was saying that they were going to Utah. They're going to go to that Asylum 49, and I was like, oh, that's probably the only reason I'd go there. You say the word asylum, and I'll be there. But other than
Fair
that, I
enough.
didn't really know anything about Utah. I don't guess. I think it's probably one of. I don't know if I've been there. I've been to almost every state, but
It's
I don't think I've been to Utah.
it's a misconception. Utah is not a bad state. All I recommend is don't move
Yeah.
here right now. It's
Yeah.
overcrowded. It's overcrowded
Is
right
it?
now. It's getting ridiculous on price and stuff. I'm not happy about that. A lot of road construction going on, but it is a really nice place to visit and get to see the wildlife and experience Utah. Check it out at least once. I
If I do
encourage
go
it.
there, I'll try to look up Antelope Island. And Jason, now that you're back, who's your favorite wrestler? Because you froze right before you gave the reveal.
Can you hear me?
Sorta.
Mm.
You're kind of muffled, like a Bigfoot sounding. He is Bigfoot. He's like 6 foot. How tall are you? 6'4", 6'5", 6'3".
6'3".
I thought he was taller than that. But he is a Bigfoot. He sounds like a Bigfoot now. Get you a beef jerky stick.
I will say there has been reports that Bigfoot's out here in Utah in different
Yeah.
spots. I can't confirm that or deny it just because I've not seen one personally, but they say it's out here.
I would imagine in a hilly, mountainy area that you'd probably
Mhm.
have some things happen that would have Bigfoot sightings reported. For sure.
Oh yeah, there's been reports of them, but here's the thing with Bigfoot that I bring up as a paranormal researcher that the first thing I'm going to say is, do I believe in the theory of Bigfoot? I do believe in the theory of Bigfoot. I believe there is a possibility of a big giant creature walking around this earth and we're still learning about them or still learning about it. The problem I have with it is I've not seen enough data to back it up. We've seen a couple of pictures here and there, but there's been no skin samples, no nails, teeth, nothing. And it's just, it gets to that point where I believe in the theory of Bigfoot, but until I see more data to prove that it exists, I can't say they're out there until then.
Yeah, because we're having more
Hey,
and more
James.
evidence of ghosts and spirits and stuff and that kind of activity, but not as much surfacing about Bigfoot.
It's difficult because I do believe that on Earth we have many different unexplainable creatures out there that have never been seen before. Like the Loch Ness monster, I do believe it exists at one point. Do I believe it exists right now? I don't think so. I don't think it would last that long underneath water. But I believe there's still many unanswered creatures out here that have still not been able to get more answers on. I would love to see some more data on those. I will be personally honest. If I ever saw a Bigfoot in person, I hope I'm wearing brown pants, number one. And number two, I'm going to be running because I'll probably be frozen in fear for the first time ever seeing one of these things. So if I survive seeing Bigfoot, I'll be shocked.
Wear brown pants, going
Yep.
looking for Bigfoot. Yeah, I always say bring your backup pee pants. That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly right.
Bring my backup pee pants, and in some cases it might be a backup poo pants.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
We lost Jason again. What is the farthest you guys have traveled to do a case?
Farthest we've ever traveled the case, we stuck around up in northern Utah mostly, mainly because A, gas, B, the cost to travel is not cheap. And when it comes to studying the paranormal, you can't really charge clients for this because the end goal result is some type of evidence or debunking to give them. And it does cost a lot to travel these days. We're working on one. Sorry, kind of cut out a little bit. I thought I lost you there for a second.
Oh, I didn't.
The farthest we were trying to travel was out to Lincoln, Nebraska. there's a place out there that we got some word on from one of our team members. That family owns a old hotel that they're trying to get rid of, and we just wanted to go out there and investigate it. COVID kind of ruined that. Gas prices as well ruined it. And we've been invited up to Idaho to check out a location as well that we're still working on trying to get out there to a spirit that they caught visual evidence of that we want to try to get more data for.
That's interesting. I like it when you get calls that, hey, we have this creepy place and we're, going to tear it down or we're going to evacuate it. You want to come check it out? And there's nothing better than.
I will say that our group has been out of Utah. We went to the Las Vegas Para-Unity Convention back in December with a lot of the great groups like the Ghost Brothers. You had the Tennessee Rave Chasers, Ghost Hunters, just to name a few. Great experience out there. Got to meet a lot of great people, show off some great evidence, and it kind of helped our group grow a little bit. So I have nothing but positive things to say about the convention, even though there's a few people out there may have some different opinions about it, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gosh, I swear, man. I don't know what's going on.
You're having some technical difficulties today, but it is a full moon, so it's probably just blaming on the full moon. That's what I said.
Well, I switched to my laptop, and then my laptop just kicked me off. So I was like, I didn't know what's going on with that. And then I don't know. I got a set of headphones, so I was like, I'm gonna try that. So
you sound much better, actually. It sounds much clearer. So awesome.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I don't know what I missed, but I know what I was gonna say. That my back to the wrestling thing. My all-time favorite wrestler is Sting. So I've grown up watching him. So
Sting's awesome. I got to see him live against Steven Regal in WCW back here around '94 when they came out live. Main event was Hogan versus Flair. Normal match, nothing surprising. But it was also the first show that had Triple H there. He was actually there as Paul Jean Levesque in the opening match, and that was fun to watch.
Yeah, I've got to meet him. I got to meet Sting a couple times, and he just always been my favorite. But you mentioned like the old school guys too, like Jake the Snake, and like Hacksaw Jim Duggan and all those guys. I've got to meet them, and I've grown up loving wrestling, especially WCW, and then of course WWE now. But I think everything's leaning towards the AEW, like Adam was saying earlier. So.
You gotta love the wrestling business. It all depends on how the company is doing. Financially, WWE is doing just fine. They have nothing to worry about. I know AEW is still growing as a company, and it would be nice to work with one of those companies. But I learned last year, unfortunately, that they are focused more on diversity and not looking for white male referees anymore. So, when I got told that,
so they want women.
They want women. They want African American, Latinos, which is not a problem. I am perfectly fine with that. I mean, diversify, give more people an opportunity. So I'm okay with that. It just told me that door in my life was closing. The whole entire thing with W.A.S.P opened up wide, and I'm sticking with it. It's working out very well.
Yeah. So I don't really know what you guys have talked about since I've been trying to figure this out, but. Is there like a bucket list location you guys want to go to you haven't went to yet?
Oh, there's quite a few. I know, like you guys heard about what's going on with Waverly Hills and Sanatorium, and I've been an advocate to help support that because I want to save Waverly Hills because that's a place I've always wanted to investigate.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of things about that place, and a good friend of mine, Chris Langman, who works with Life After Life Paranormal. She went out there and had a great experience. I'm like, ooh, this would be a fun place to go to. There's a place here in Utah that's pretty well known that everybody talks about, Skinwalker Ranch, which is east from where I live. And I've actually gotten in contact with Brandon Fugel, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch. What's going on is they've got their show on the History Channel. The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. I think they're still recording for more seasons for that. So they haven't really let anybody on the location quite yet. I know in September they've got a convention going on that they're going to have select people go onto Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh wow.
I'm actually wanting to get my team on there because I feel that we can answer a lot of the questions that's going on. And I would love to investigate that place for sure. And then
Yeah.
you've got the old restaurant or bar out in Weiler, Kentucky. I keep on forgetting the name, but they were featured on Ghost Adventures. I remember that much. And I know Tennessee Wraith Chasers have been out there on multiple occasions. And then Poveglia Island out in Italy would be a remarkable study.
Yeah.
See the weird history from the early 1000s on that place would be amazing. I would love to go out there. No power. I don't care. We're going to make it happen. I think it'd be a wonderful place to check out. Those are just a few. And then I think the other one that I'm excited about as well, too, is I want to check out another place called, I want to check out my old high school, Roy High School. There had been stories and reports about this place, including a woman in a purple hat, a kid that got killed at the train tracks. This is nearly a half a mile away from the school that roams the building. I would love to check out that place and try to gather some evidence. And yeah, that's kind of difficult.
Right. Yeah, we've been lucky enough to investigate at Waverly Hills, and it is a pretty crazy location, and everybody that was with us was getting different types of evidence all over the building. So it's definitely lives up to the hype.
Oh yeah, without question. It's definitely on my bucket list from what I've heard of the place. It would just be nice to go in there and see what we can gather evidence-wise, because not every team's going to have the same evidence. That's the cool part about it. So
yeah, and what's something you don't really realize too, just by seeing it on TV, but how massive the building actually is. I mean, it's huge.
I bet it's overwhelming just looking at the building just by itself. It has to be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, most everybody gets the shot. Yeah, very. Most everybody gets the shot of all the the open area and the back where you see all the open windows and walkways and everything. That's the back of the building, and that's the more famous side of it. But when you walk around the other side of the building, you get to see the stuff that's not really on TV much. That's pretty cool to learn the history of everything surrounding the building too.
Yeah, some of the people's experiences while they stayed there, and it was their last, resting place. Basically, they died there, and intimate things about people that actually, that was the last place that they spent their waking hours there.
Oh yeah, and in addition, with Charlie's story, with his dad being saved there, they saved his life at that location. I think that's an honorable thing that his son wanted to keep it into the family, keep it as a part of history. So that's, to me, that right there alone just tells me this is definitely a place worth saving.
And that alone makes it see why, through his eyes, it's important enough to fight for.
Exactly. 100%. I agree.
Yeah, it's I hope that all works out for him, so.
Yeah, and we were blessed to get to work with Ernie and Denise, who were helping him in this big fight to get it back and return it to the rightful owner. We were blessed enough to go through them. We went through with them as our guides.
Oh, yeah. I got to meet Denise and them at the Para-Unity convention because they were out there in Vegas, and that's when I learned about this.
Yeah, awesome.
And they are awesome people, and seeing everything that they're going through, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But at the same, it's not surprising something like this happens. I've heard it's not, Waverly Hills is not the only one that deals with this.
Yeah.
But it's sad. It's sad because for a paranormal community like us, this is someplace we want to investigate. This is a place that we want to go and check out. And to see all that they're going through it's just disturbing.
Yeah.
It is actually. It makes you open your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Just goes to show you the almighty dollar is all they worry about. But hey, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, if anybody's watching, wondering what we're talking about, just look up say Waverly Hills on Facebook or whatever, and it should pop up, and you can read what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but
Or
you're right. Other
message Ernie and
locations.
Denise too. You can message Ernie and Denise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Ernie and Denise are awesome, and I want to see this victory happen for Charlie and Tina, without question.
Yeah, because that's really,
yeah,
they
for
don't
sure.
probably have many years left, not to sound terrible, but they probably might not, and this might be the only thing that matters with them.
Mm-hmm. Without question. So I want to see him win, plain and simple.
Right. Yeah, and as far as like Skinwalker Ranch, of course everybody wants to go there.
Yeah.
We know somebody who lives next to there, so we'd have the opportunity to maybe go up there and stay on her property. But the thing about that is not just the ranch, but that whole area is got a lot of activity.
Mm-hmm. To be quite honest, when it comes to the paranormal, anywhere can have activity. And Utah is pretty heavy when it comes to activity, when it comes to the paranormal. There's a lot of places that we've explored that the activity is amazing. One of the most known places in Utah also is 25th Street in Ogden, which they considered the epicenter of the West back in the mid 1800s because you had brothels, drinking. It's even funny. There's a saying that I'm still trying to figure out if it's true or not. But supposedly Al Capone has said that he'll never step foot in Ogden because it was too dangerous.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
It's crazy.
Oh.
Jason's like, let's go there.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty neat. There's places I've talked to that I've wanted to investigate, haven't heard anything back. You got Union Pacific Railroad that's right there on the edge of it. And that place has had a lot of activity. And that's another place I'd love to check out. But in all fairness, I'm also very thankful for the places that we have been able to explore. And I mentioned Carl, the ranch manager for Fielding-Gar Ranch. That's the one place right now that I give a lot of thanks to. There's places for like Denise and Ernie Pack. Waverly Hills is their big major place. For us, Fielding-Gar Ranch is where, for the last 3 years, we've been studying this place and have had the most incredible experiences. Some evidence that has been amazing to see. Yep, there's Carl right there. Thank him for the last 3 years that he has given us for allowing us to go and investigate this location and try out new things. In fact, if you go onto our YouTube channel, you just type up W.A.S.P Utah, you can see a couple of investigations we've done out there on that place. One of them was a news story for KSL out here in Utah, and it was a fun experience to have them out there seeing what we've gone through. And the place is just amazing. It's insane with all this different stuff that has happened. I've heard a chuckle out loud, which has never happened to me anywhere else. It gave me goosebumps. We've heard footsteps. We've had attacks. And this place is not known for having any negative entities. But there's a place where there's a wooded area right next to the ranch house that has something dark in there that is not happy with a lot of people. And that's where a lot of the attacks have happened. In fact, on the KSL story, Chris Black, who's one of my founders, as well as our lead evidence analysis, he was attacked, and they show the scratch mark from the news story.
Oh,
absolutely crazy. All you have to do is look up Utah's Ghost Island, and you'll pull us up.
Utah's Ghost Island?
Mm-hmm.
What is the island? What's Ghost Island?
It's Antelope Island. It's on Antelope Island, pretty much.
Oh, this place you want us to camp at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go check it out. It's beautiful during the day, and also it is a wonderful place to check out stars. There's no real light out there on the island, so you can visibly look at everything in the sky, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
That's awesome. I like places like that. Even if you weren't doing paranormal anything, just to just be somewhere that's nice and enjoyable, kind of for a holiday or a vacation, or just outdoors excursion.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely amazing. It's super affordable, super cheap. It's like $15 for a car of 8 people to go onto the island. Awesome. It's super cheap.
Well, I'm gonna make the lists of places that we want to go. So if they're all like around each other, then we ever trek that far, we go to all of them.
Oh, yeah. Without question.
Yeah, I've always heard about Utah itself being a pretty hotbed for paranormal activity. And that's ranging from any type of ghosts to spirit skinwalker to aliens. So
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I have seen something of the extraterrestrial side just a couple of years ago in October, right above Antelope Island, because you could see where Antelope Island's at. There was these weird lights that just came out of nowhere in just in a row, 4 different lights right above there. Knowing the area well, I know there's no lights. There's no way for lights to be turned on, especially that high. And I've showed it to KGRA radio, which we were a part of for a year, and they were blown away because they said it was something similar they saw in Texas. So I think the extraterrestrial unidentified flying objects I do believe in, because I feel like with us being the only planet to have life is nearly impossible. There's just no way.
right, yeah.
And we do
I
have
feel
even
same.
the government releasing, things that they're speaking up about, saying that it's, UFOs.
Right.
And see, even Carl's seen a UFO. He didn't get video or anything, but he's seen a UFO, and it does happen. And he says right there on Antelope Island, which happened to be the place where I saw that. So, yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Adam said, "Go Texas." Lives in Texas.
Right.
I'm thinking go to Antelope Island. That's what I'm thinking. That sounds like a good place to go.
Well, I encourage you, go and check it out. You'll have a
And
great
I have
time.
a telescope, so I'm going to use that too.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Yeah, you'll definitely enjoy it. It is great scenery. Just stay away from the bisons. There's already been a couple attacks in the last 5 years, and it's not been fun.
No, for sure not.
As long as you're leaving them alone, they'll leave you alone. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Right.
Sleep in your car and not in a tent.
Yeah, and you always have those idiots that go up there and try to get real close to them, take a picture. It's like they don't. It's like you don't realize that it's a wild animal just because they're calm and kind of hanging out there. They're a wild animal. So you always see news stories from like Yellowstone or something, people getting kicked or gored or whatever from them.
Oh, yeah. And when I was younger, we went out to Yellowstone one year, and we drove up right next to a bison that did absolutely nothing. But literally, it was as close as I am to my computer screen. And it did absolutely nothing. So I was very lucky. But don't tempt fate. Don't tempt fate.
Right.
Don't wave your red picnic blanket next to you.
No.
That's what I'm envisioning people doing when Jason's telling that story. I'm envisioning some dummy recording and some dummy waving the red picnic blanket or something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don't do that. That would be bad. Super bad.
Bad day for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, you said it doesn't cost very much to go there. How far is Antelope Island? Is it from the mainland? How do you get to the island?
Easiest way to go is if you are in Salt Lake, head north and find the Syracuse exit, which is about 20 minutes from Salt Lake North. And then you start heading west on Antelope Drive the entire way, and it'll take you right to the gate of Antelope Island.
Because I'm actually pretty interested in going there. If we ever go to Utah, I'm interested in going there for sure.
And if you guys do end up having to come out and are interested in investigating that location, I'll talk to Carl and see if we can set up a time for you guys to come out and investigate with us.
That would be super fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Since
make
you
it happen.
already know the area, you already know the turf and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. For me, I'm actually really close because I live on Antelope Drive, and it's not that far to get there. So it's a long drive at that point. It takes like 15, 20 minutes to get to like Fielding Gar Ranch per se, but it's worth it. It's beautiful. It's a great scenery.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
guys do any form of like protection when you go to places and houses and islands and ranches and all that stuff? Like, do you carry any like special crystals or stones or jewelry or holy water or anything like that?
I'll tell you right now, after that experience I had in Taylorville, I highly encourage wearing some type of protection at all times. I have a crystal that goes around my neck. I would actually show it on camera right now. However, I have it on my seal of my window for the full moon to recharge it and everything. But we do got a team of cleansers on W.A.S.P that use sage, holy water,
Yeah.
anything, because we've got one that studies Reiki. Actually, two of them. I apologize. We got Stephanie, who's our second. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I don't make it look like I'm flipping off the camera because I'm not. I promise I'm not. But we got two people that specialize in Reiki. My psychic medium, Stephanie, and then Crystal, who does an amazing job. And then we also have Sabrina. They all have stones. They have their sage, whatever we need to cleanse at the particular time. And it doesn't matter. You always cleanse the correct way, because if you cleanse incorrectly, it could get worse. We've learned a long time ago. So we do make sure we have protection on us at all time. Sometimes Chris Black forgets his, and it causes a lot of problems.
Right.
But I call him a conduit when it comes to the paranormal, because I'll give you a great example. One of the things in Ogden that we have is there is the Ogden Cemetery, and it's famous for the folklore story of Flo, where if you go drive by her gravestone, honk 3 times, she'll appear, type thing. He lives 2 houses away from this cemetery and has activity every single night. He sees shadow people, things move, he gets attacked. I'm like, Chris, you move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or get a really heavy team of people, a lot of people to do some kind of really huge salt circle or protection barrier warding around your house. Maybe that might not even work. It might not.
Oh yeah, it's crazy what he goes through. So, but sometimes you got to have that conduit, because things can happen with the conduit.
Yeah.
I know Sabrina and Justin are a couple of other conduits that do happen to have activity happen all the time.
It's always
That's
fun.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we're getting close to the end, right? So.
Yeah, one more question.
Right.
Have you guys ever gone somewhere and sat for a really long time and not gotten any activity at all?
Really, the only place I could say that's happened is Fielding-Gar Ranch. There's been on 2 separate occasions where we've went out there, and one of the things out there in Utah that's like, I would say 30 to 40 miles away, is Salt Air, which is also another place that Ghost Adventures have been out to. Oh, they've been out to many different places. And every time they hold an event at Salt Air that involves base, it ruins the investigation, because nothing happens. Because you can feel the bass and hear it from that distance coming into Fielding-Gar Ranch. And it's really sad sometimes that it happens, but it teaches you a valuable lesson that if you have an event going on nearby, it can ruin the investigation.
Yeah. Like when you say a base, it's a base?
Base, yeah.
Like,
really
so
heavy base.
It's an airport.
Salt Air is a concert attraction. And they have different bands, raves that happen there all the time.
Oh.
Okay. That makes sense.
If I was a spirit, I would leave where you guys were, and I'd go to the rave. I'm just saying.
Because on the rave. Right.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Bye, you guys. Investigate later. I'm going to go enjoy this rave.
Have fun.
Soak up the energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, you get no activity. You're, asking, all kinds of, the normal stuff, like, what's your name? Are you around or anything like that? Yeah, like she said, they're all hanging out the rave.
Oh, I know, right? They're gonna just sitting there having a great time. I wonder what's happening back at home.
Right. Yeah, I wonder if those guys are still standing there in the dark asking to see if we're there.
Exactly.
Too much energy, though. They wouldn't be able to resist it, I don't think.
Oh, I know, right?
So,
I don't know.
do you want to tell everybody where everything that you have, like for your team and stuff, is located? Like what all channels and
Oh,
everything
yeah.
you have?
So the best way to get a hold of us is through wasparanormal.org. And that actually is linked to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, our two busiest out of all of them. So that's where you can go and check out our stuff, and including if you need to get a hold of us for anything that's happening in your home, your business, a historical landmark. That's how you reach out to us. Is you just go to wasparanormal.org, fill out the little thing that's there, and it goes right to me, and we start talking to get things taken care of. Also, a shout out to Dark Prime Collectibles, who is our sponsor. Thank you for sponsoring us. We really appreciate it. And that's the best way to view anything that we've had is go to our YouTube channel. There's tips, there's investigations that we have done, and there's more to come.
Awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you for being with us tonight. Thank you everybody for watching.
Yep.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, guys. It was a pleasure. I'd love to come back and we could talk some more about some of the stuff that's happened.
Yeah, everybody have a good night and keep it creepy. And I wouldn't rush to get off here, but there's another show that's gonna it's gonna be right after us.